Hello there, everybody. We Paddy from across the shock, and it's a bit of a rant this morning. It's a Sunday morning here in Northern Ireland. It's pretty miserable looking outside. I was sitting, my wife's having a lie-in. She hasn't been too well, and I was just sitting there. You know, you get that wee sort of pity me, poor me, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, what could make me angry? And I thought, let's think about the knife community. And to be honest with you, it brought a smile to my face, but it did actually bring a thought of a video. I haven't got very many knives to review at the minute, new ones. One, I just can't afford them. Two, Ganzo are a bit late, or not Ganzo, Gearbest are a bit late in sending me the ones that I'd ordered. So I'm sort of stuck in this sort of limbo where you have to think of something to do. I used to do this in the beginning all the time. But so my rant, you'll see that it's China versus the US, the USA and the rest of the world. And I separated USA from the rest of the world because the USA would be China's biggest challenge. And the rest of the world is just, you got Sheffield knife makers. Well, knife makers all over the world. But the US has the biggest production knife makers. So I just wanted to have a rant about the challenges. And when somebody comes around our community, it's this mad rush to get to the very expensive knives. And we miss out on, not we, those who are coming in, miss out on what I think is the story of knife collecting. The learning how other companies made their name and keep there's companies that have been making knives for years that are not in the high-end market, but they keep making innovative designs, and that's what's kept them there. So I was getting a bit that started the thought process, because just over 2 years ago when I started my YouTube channel, the Chinese knives they took a backward, they were a backward role in the knife world as far as good-end, high-end knives were. Now, take away custom knives, because that's a completely different thing, but I think it's even catching up there. But I'm talking about high-end production knives that are on the market for everybody to buy. They're say up to 300 quid. And I know that's a lot of money to some people, and it's way too much for me, but there is knives that are out there, they're up to 300 quid, that I can attain to, and all I've got to do is save to get them. It's not beyond my reach at all, or most people's reach. If you want one, save. But being a YouTube, what do I call myself? I don't know, because I am very much a collector now. I have a stupid amount of knives that, I'll never get round to using them all, but I do take them out and play with them all, if that makes any sense to anybody. I've got over 50 knives, I would say now. Most of them are cheap, but cheap does not necessarily mean bad in the knife community. And that's where you got to separate it. You can go in and buy a shirt, a polo shirt, in a cheap shop, and you buy a cheap polo shirt that you could spit through. There's nothing to it. And then you go into a high-end shop, you buy a thick, beautifully made, in good cotton, will last you for years. Now, in the knife community, it's different, because you can go out there and buy a £300 knife, and it would be the only knife you would need for the rest of your life. Or you can go out and buy a $40, $50, $20 knife that will last just as long as that £300 one. Will do just the same things. You might have to maintain it more, but it will do just the same things. So there's the difference in the knife community and buying a shirt. So there is a difference, and that's what I wanted to sort of hit on this morning. There is definitely a difference. But I can't understand why a couple of years ago, everybody was hating on the Chinese. They were hating on them. Not me, because they were the ones I could afford, basically. And that doesn't make me any special. It just means that I couldn't afford any. I couldn't afford the other ones at the time to get a channel up and running. I couldn't afford them. And I'm talking about the likes of Spyderco, and I have got them, and you can see them now. I have got them now, but then I couldn't afford them. This was one of my first knives, and I learned very quickly, Stephen, why did you let your wife spend that amount of money on a knife that I could have got 4 off that would have done the channel better? And that was the dilemma that then threw itself up on me. And then once I started buying the cheaper knives, I started, there's nothing wrong with these. They're not bad. They're not much. I mean, let's just take for instance now. There's a knife that costs about £80, £90 over here. There's a knife that costs half the price of it. This knife and this knife are roughly the same size. Roughly, they're made with steel and they're made with FRN. This is VG10, this is D2, a better steel. We all, I don't think there's any argument in that. It's a better steel than So, this is half the price of this. So, my question is, why are people paying twice the amount of money for a knife that's definitely not, this is actually just as playable. I mean, it's a flicker. But, I mean, because you got the hole, yes, you can open it so many ways. But look, I put a thumb stud on this. I can do everything with this knife and more with this. So, do you know what I mean? And it's half the price. So why do we do it? Well, design, style. Some people will like this style more than this. And I agree with that. And we should have the choice to go for style. But why the difference? This is Chinese. This is made in America. No, sorry. This is not even made in America. This is Taiwanese, but it's an American company. So Taiwan, and this is in China. So there's not that much difference in where they're made. So why is that big price difference when the steel's better in this? And this is where I think you fall under that company loyalty. If you know, what's one of the biggest companies in the internet that's going on is U-Switch over here in the UK. I'm sure you have something similar in America, where if you go onto this site and you put your electric bill in, and then you go to hit U-Switch, and it finds cheaper companies that do the same, offer the same, if not better deals. And then you switch to save money. But we don't tend to do that in the knife community. It's like, let's bypass this and buy this, because this is the one everybody has. This is the one everybody shows when they're doing comparisons, because everybody's buying them. And that's because everybody says you have to have one of these because it's the staple of your knife. Well, you don't. Be your own. I mean, I done it. I followed them rules in my head. And after I got it, I'm thinking, I could have had 4 good knives for that price, because I found the likes of Ganzo that were giving me a knife like this. Now, it's a homage. I didn't care. But the flack I got for when I bought this was unbelievable. Now, it's an axis lock. I've never seen the Spyderco paramilitary with an axis lock. Oh, look, there's a big hole in the front, just exactly the same. But there's no axis lock. There's a back lock, which is much better than the axis lock, as far as I'm concerned now. When I got this given to me kindly by my friend, this is a much better knife than that. But it doesn't do any more than this does. If I'm going to do some hard repetitive work, I'll use this rather than this. And I can't, why would you do that if this one's better? Because I'm trying to save this. And that's what I'm trying to actually stop doing. I'm trying to use my better knives more, because that's why I wanted them. Because they were better. Because they were better. But when I couldn't afford this one, I had this one that was a homage to it. It made me feel I liked it. And it's a workhorse. It'll go and go and go. It's got an axis lock, which is a Benchmade thing. It's Benchmade who had the axis lock, and they were ripping it off. So now Benchmade don't make axis locks. Well, not they don't make them, they do make them, but they lost the patent for them. So now other companies are now making the axis lock, and that's fine. Everybody says it's great. Benchmade have lost it. So all the other bigger companies are now sticking an axis lock in because people like axis lock. So what's the difference with Ganzo doing it? Just because... this is what annoys me. Because Ganzo were doing it, it was, terrible. They're stealing the axis lock. But now that they run out of the patent, let's jump on the bandwagon. We'll all have an axis lock because they're good. So they're all jumping on Benchmade, what they designed. They're stealing their designs, adapting them a wee bit because they don't want to copy, much like Ganzo did. And now they're selling them as their version of an axis lock. And we all accept that as, that's fine. That's okay because it's a nice big company. They're doing it. They're giving us choice. The choice was always there. The choice was always there. And that's the sort of things that gets me a bit mad, that, the big companies are now taking the axis lock because Benchmade have run out. Would it not have been the decent thing to say, well, that's Benchmade's thing. Let them have it. We'll design our own. Ganzo didn't do that. They chose a Benchmade. They got ridiculed for it. Okay. But Chinese don't have the same laws as us, and we wanted to put our laws on them. Sorry, you can't. It's a different country. That's why there's a battle between China. But to be honest with you, it's a battle that I think the US and the rest of the world are going to lose because we're halfway lost it there now. I mean, we are going down that road where... Here's a typical... Now, this is my most expensive knife. When it was first came out, it was about $250. This is the Kaiser Scholl in M390. In titanium, smooth titanium. It is a beautiful small to mid-range knife with a beautiful blade grind. Absolute everything about it is so well finished. It's just gorgeous. Now, that costs £200 odd. I can get a titanium D2 blade, again, great design, might be a copy or might look like something else, but all knives have a cutting edge and a handle, so they all look something the same. I get uptight over this. This is made by Fury Gear. It's a China company. They copy things. That's what they do. So you either like it or you don't. But what I'm trying to say to people coming around, if you keep falling into this thing that says you can't buy that because it's not right, you're wasting an awful lot of your money finding out what is out there, in my opinion. Especially if you haven't got it. I'm talking to people who maybe haven't got a lot of money. If you've got plenty of money, that's fine. If I had plenty of money, I'd be driving a Rolls Royce. I wouldn't be driving a battered old car. Do you know what I mean? So that's the simple truth. So I'm not getting at people who have money. By all means, you go out and buy one. I'm talking about somebody who's putting themselves maybe in debt to keep up with what they think they have to, keeping up with the Joneses, if you like. But that there knife is every bit as good as that as far as it's D2, it'll hold a decent edge. This is M390, best in the market. Beautiful knife. Absolutely beautiful. They both flick. They're both made of nearly, very similar, except one's got a bit of a better steel. And this brings me on to another part of the subject that I want to talk about, and that is sharpening. If you can sharpen a knife, it doesn't matter whether you've got this knife in your hand or this knife in your hand, because you can bring both back to sharpness. Do you know what I mean? And you'll get a full day's work out of this and a full day's work out of this. You probably get a week's worth out of both of them. Probably get a week's worth. I don't think M390 lasts a whole lot longer on your average everyday task than D2, than a good heat-treated D2. I'm probably wrong, but it would do me enough to go to work with. And I can sharpen both. But when I first came around, I had never sharpened a knife, and I was very lucky that I met a channel called Jeff Jewell, and he does sharpening, and I loved his attitude to it. I loved his way of, don't worry, just give it a bash. Don't worry, just give it a bash. What's the worst that can happen? Use a cheap knife and give it a bash. So that's what I done. And once I learned to sharpen, and I'm by no means great, but I'm good enough to get an edge on it that'll cut telephone paper. It'll do a day's work. If I don't want to have it that sharp, I can put an edge quickly on it that will get me through a week's work. depending on the blade steel. So that took an awful lot of the fear of collecting cheaper knives. And I just think now the Chinese are moving in, and they've got this new, they've adopted this new policy, which I think is brilliant. And we seem to be all diving on it because it's brilliant. And they're doing it now the opposite way round. Let me make that a wee bit more clearer. Right. We is now one of the top knife companies in the world as far as their fit, finish and making. They are just phenomenal. Making amazing knives. I don't have a wee knife to show you, but they're bringing out a very, very budget one called the Saviri. And it's about $40 odd. But absolutely brilliant, because the wee knives are sort of, most of them now, the high-end ones, are up over the 200 and maybe over the 300, or the high-end 100s. I mean, they have a selection that's going right through. But most of them, now we have done this the opposite way around. The other companies, the companies like Tuya Knives, and I'm trying to think of the other ones, Best Tech, they're the new ones about, the new boys. This is a Tuya knife, right? Beautiful design. It's S35VN, it's titanium, milled pocket clip, lock bar. I mean, it's just got everything you need in a knife. Now, it's a little small knife. I have a passion for small knives. There's Best Tech. Oh, Best Tech. Look at this. Beautiful knife. S35VN, titanium, coloured. It's well milled out. It's just, again, frame lock. It's a lovely, lovely knife. Really well made. It's just a miniature of big versions. And that's what I like. I enjoy carrying a good secondary knife because I use them more. But before they started this, and now their knife brand has gone way up. The prices start to jump as they come in. This little knife, they came out with these cheap ones in the beginning. These little knives are about $100 each for a little knife that's as big as your index finger. That's all it is, and it's $100 each, and it's no more. This £30. Look at the size of this. Again, the only difference is it's D2. But what a difference in size. Do you know what I mean? Titanium D2, titanium S35VN. Now, I know it takes just as much to make a small one. But what I'm saying is there's so many options out there that you don't have to. And here's my proof. This is made for a couple of years. This is out a couple of years now. Another Chinese company. And this is a Chinese company, Tucson. This is D2, titanium. Look at this lovely inlay. Really well made knife. Lock bar. Now, saying that, it doesn't have a lock bar, I'm telling fibs, but it's a small knife. And it's got the clip, and it flips out just as well as that. These two are just scarily. That was just a bit of a smaller blade. But there's nothing much difference in them. This is $100, and this was about $30. So, you do not have to spend the money to get the designs. They're out there within cheaper models. I mean, Tucson I have about 3 or 4 Tucsons, and they're amazing knives. Their standard of detail and their fit and finish is amazing. It's as good as Best Techs, your Tuyas, your Kaisers. It's as good as them. But they're charging so much less to keep that part of the market open. And that's why the bigger companies are now coming down. The leading is in with a cheap one, and then within 6 months they have ones that are over the 200. And it's like sheep to the slaughter. I just see everybody heading towards these, and they have to have knives. They're knives that people can't afford. But I would hate to think of somebody, and this is why this whole video has come about. I would hate to think of somebody getting into debt because of want. Because of wanting to be like everybody else. Here's another one. Here's another little knife. Now, this is from GearBest, another Chinese company. It's a knockoff of something else. It was a bean knife. I got so much stick when this came out because of that symbol. So much stick. So now other companies have taken this off, putting their own on, and they're selling them throughout all the shops in the world, and it's okay. There you go. So, I mean, there is a little bit of a rant. And this is S35VN titanium. Costs about £20 odd. £20 usually. Somewhere around that. What's that? $25, $26. They're out there. You just have to look for them. But recently, there has been a fight back. And that's what I'm really glad to see. Here's another one. FRN. What has become to plastic? How expensive is plastic becoming? Now, this is me who's doing the rant. I bought this. Nobody gave me this one. I bought this by choice. It's FRN. It's S30V, which is now very average. You know, it's just a bit above D2. It's on the axis lock. It's feather light because it's just plastic. But they charged me about 130 for it. You know, 130. 30 odd. D2. About the same size. Different opening, different closing mechanism. More choices of opening and closing with this one. About the same size. Weighs a wee bit heavier. But here you go. Here's one that's been out for years and years. This is the K-bar dozer. Right? Doesn't have the fancy opening. But look at that. They weigh about the same. The blade's about the same length. But this blade is AUS 8. Now, it's well heat treated, but it's AUS 8. You can sharpen this in about a minute if it goes dull. You literally can sharpen it in about a minute. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to have stones about with you to do that. You can sharpen that on a stone from the ground. I wouldn't do it with that. So, I mean, this is $20. This is $130. Is there much difference in look? It's plastic and it's metal. How can there be $100 different just for that blade steel? I don't know. I just don't know. Everybody has to design. That had to be designed as much as that. This is a regular knife. This is not some knockoff knife. This is a K-bar. A very famous knife brand. And it's been out for years and years. AUS 8 have never even changed the blade steel. They could put D2 in it. It's not going to cost them any more than it costs them to put D2 in this. But they don't need to. That knife works brilliant as an EDC knife. It works absolutely brilliant. This is another one. The Rat 2 has come out now. D2. And it's, again, in the mid-30s for a D2 knife in one of the most famous knives. It's gorgeous. It will do you any day. It'll last you the rest of your life if you want that knife. And the AUS 8 models did. You know, they've only just gone out of circulation really now. In fact, they haven't, because people who have got them haven't put them out of circulation yet. You might just hear the kettle going on now. My wee wifey's just got up. But I'm going to finish very shortly because I've just gone on too long now. So, and here's one of the biggest things that my thought process this morning was going. I was finding it very hard to think of a video to do because it didn't have new knives to sort of bring in a new knife. And I think this is where I'm going to become more and more creative now. It's just thinking of, I have now started to pop into the traditional, right? And this beautiful knife here that's getting a lovely patina because I have used the bejiggers out of it. It's a GEC 78. It is a stunning knife to carry. Look how thin that is. Beautiful fit and finish. Lovely to touch. Lovely colour. Cranberry jig bone. It's just beautiful. I can't get this out of my pocket. None of these are getting as much time as this. Now, I know I've just got it and I'm having a wee bit of an affair with it. But a couple of weeks before I got this, I paid just a little bit more for this, which is the Lion Steel M390, which I thought, oh gosh, you have to get that in a slip joint. That's going to be one of the best slip joints out. And it is the fit finish. It is a beautiful slip joint. And I would have no fear in using this for any EDC. None whatsoever. But, and here's the big but, that's just carbon steel. That's 10.95, I think it is, carbon steel. I mean, you can nearly sharpen that in a pair of jeans to get an edge on it. It's that easy to sharpen. That M390, when it goes blunt, you need to get that diamond stones on it to get it sharp again. It'll outlast that by, for what I used it probably lasted. But the whole point is if you can sharpen, you take the pressure off yourself completely, where you don't have to go for M390. You don't have to. There's Ganzo have come out with a D2 now. Ganzo, it's the company I'm most loyal to. I have at least 20 Ganzos. And they've now come out with a D2, which is an amazing knife. It's on bearings, ceramic bearings. It's just amazing. But all my other Ganzos are 440C, which to me is a great steel still. I mean, 20 years ago it was the steel, but to me it still is. For all the reasons that it was back then, it's easy to sharpen, easy to maintain, doesn't rust. There you go. Still as good. So yes, although I love the D2 coming in, I think D2 is a great working steel. And I suppose most of my knives have got to be in that kind of bracket. But the other thing that I've been learning about this last year or two is going for companies like Kershaw, a great American company. They're not following, they're not following the leader. They're like K-Bar. They're still bringing out their knives, but this is in 8CR13. I think that's what it is, yeah. It's the Tie-Tac 2. Button lock. Look at that. Drop shot. What a fidgety, playful knife. Do you know what I mean? That is just unbelievable. You could sit all day and quite happily do that, and it's in the $30, $40. That's a Kershaw knife. I'm not sure of these prices. I'm guessing half the time. But I know it's not that dear. So I can go to Kershaw and get great designs from great designers who then go on to become famous knife makers. A lot of these people have gone on and they do, that's a brand tie. I mean, I could never even buy one of his knives. Couldn't afford them. But yet when they go to Kershaw and they do them, you get a bit of their signature in the knives. And that's the lovely part, that you can do it on a budget. Don't feel you have to rush to a Wii or this is G10 and S30V. It's an absolute, and you're paying for the design, and I accept that. 130, 140, but that's not a bad price because it's a really, really good knife for that price. But that's 15. Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to rush here. There is other options. And am I advising people that you should go for Ganzo? I bloomin' am. If you're just around and you haven't got a whole lot of money, yeah, go to Ganzo. Collect up the Ganzo ones that you like. And you can't, Ganzo have that many now that are not homages. You don't have, I've no shame. I've no shame, I'll go for that. But they have new ones out now that are not homages that are amazing quality. They're still in 440C, most of them. Hopefully now they're going to be stepping up to the D2. They stepped up the ball bearings this year as well. So they really are lifting the game up. And they're not putting their prices up too much. This is still mid-$20. It's mid-£20 here, so it's a wee bit dearer here. But that's quite normal. So it's just the choice out there. Don't get stuck on that, I have to go to the dear ones. You don't. As time goes by, and you bought up the ones that you want to use and to learn with and to sharpen with and do whatever, you can gradually then save up. Once you've got a collection, you can make a video like this. This is my couple of years worth of collection that I can sit down and have a chat about and relate it to other things. And if you relate to me or you don't relate to me, the fact that you've watched it and you're going to come on, and then one of my friends last week, we had a spate on going back and forth with each other, arguing about what one said. But that's fine. Do you know what I mean? That's okay. As long as I don't call him a beep beep or, use bad language and we have an adult conversation, I'm all for it. I love that conversation about our community, our knives, because we are all different. And I don't want to lump everybody in this. This is just me for people who are maybe coming around, Don't rush. Take your time. These other knives will come eventually. If you find that you're a knife person, you will gradually want better knives. Would I pay more than 300 for a knife? I very much doubt it. Unless something happens that I've got a lot of money to spare, I might. But it would have to be a very special knife because, I'm now moving towards traditional for a while, and I'm saving now for my next GEC because that knife is blowing my head away. Is it a better knife than this one? No, it's just different. No, it's different. They're about the same size. This one's about 200 quid now, or just under 200. This one's about 100. Yeah, about £100. So it's the price difference is vastly in this one's favour, but they're just both knives. I enjoy sharpening this. I've only had to really strop that. I don't think I've had this done. I might have had this done. I'm not sure. But there we go. Right. Rant over. I've finished now. And I'm not getting at anybody, so don't get annoyed. But if you want to state your opinion, please do, because if I think it's different than my opinion, I love a good argument. But I'll never get cross, or I'll never unblock you. As long as you don't use bad language and don't call me any names, I'll not call you names. And if you think I'm wrong, tell me, because I'll not automatically bounce back and say, oh, no, I'm right, because so many times I have been proved wrong.